So on your screen, you're seeing a couple of the things that we're going to talk about today, and you're probably thinking, how on earth are we going to fit all of these into one session and still have time for questions? We can do it, I promise. I'm going to do my best. We're going to talk first about the rubrics tool. We're then going to go into the assignment annotations tool. It's one of my favorite things. It's one of the best parts about using the assignments tool is giving your learners a chance to understand your evaluation in context. We'll then go into grades and mastery view of the gradebook as well, which is actually what you're seeing in this screenshot here, this mastery view. So let's move along, shall we? The first thing we're going to talk about today is rubrics. So rubrics provide, as you can see, timely, efficient feedback. Many of you, I'm sure all of you, are familiar with using or creating rubrics. We're going to show you how to do that in Brightspace today. There's a little GIF on the screen here showing you a little peek at what you can do with them. So you can associate rubrics with assessments in your courses, which makes perfect sense, hopefully. You can align them with assignments, with quizzes, with discussions, for example. And rubrics score, what's really helpful about using the Brightspace rubrics is that they score automatically links to the gradebook. Okay, so what I really want you to understand about evaluation tools and tools that support evaluation in the platform is they're meant to work together to automate some of that manual work that you would be doing in your classroom, marking assignments, writing that down, having to input that into a gradebook. If you're using the tools in a wholesome way in Brightspace, it's a really beautiful time-saving and efficiency effort to have that all come together in the background once you set that up. You can create the rubrics right inside your course. I'm going to show you how to do that today. And the beautiful thing is you can reuse them throughout the year. They'll save in kind of a repository where you can pull them into different aspects of the platform, different content, different accessible activities. And they're also shareable. As is so much in Brightspace, you are able to use that import, export, copy components function. Some of you may be familiar with that, some of you may not. You can use that function actually to share a rubric that you've built with yourself in another course or perhaps with a colleague. Okay, annotations tool. So you can use the annotations tool when you're marking a student assignment or evaluating an assignment to provide inline comments. So adding those comments directly to the piece of work or the piece of learner evidence. You can use highlight and drawing tools. What you can use that for is to emphasize text or add freehand notations, which I love, kind of like you're using a stylus or a writing on a student assignment for that personalized feedback right in context where they need it. And it also supports multiple file types. So you're able to use the annotation tools on top of things like PDFs and Word documents and more. Okay, so that's our annotations tool. I'm just doing a quick touch on these and then we'll head into the environment and take a look. The grades tool, many of you are familiar with this, which makes perfect sense. Hopefully you're all engaging in some sort of evaluation using the grades tool in some way in Brightspace. So what the grades tool is it's really a centralized space for recording grades, okay, from assignments, quizzes, and discussions. It integrates, like I said, with assessment tools in Brightspace. I really want you to take away from this session that if you're using these evaluation tools, it's another task, but it's another task that helps to automate some of those efficiency pieces, again, that you're doing by hand on paper or in other systems, having to translate grades from Brightspace to another grading tool, another gradebook, a third-party program. Let's try and see if we can promote the usage of the Brightspace gradebook to take some of that lift off of you. You can customize grade items and categories to make it make sense for you and your learners. And you have automatic grade calculations, which again is another efficiency piece for you. You have data analytics in there. We'll look a little bit into that. And there's a student-friendly view for your learners as well. Okay, let's take a look. I'm going to stop my screen share for a second. And Christina, if there's anything you want to bring up from that Q&A, be happy to do that now while I switch my screen over. If not, we'll jump right in.
I think we can go ahead and jump right in, Whitney.
Perfect. All right. Okay. Give that a second to load in here. So what you should be seeing on your screen right now is the junior intermediate science class. Okay, you might be thinking, whoa, that looks pretty good. Hopefully, these Bright Ideas sessions might also inspire you to take a look at the layout of your course. I want to draw your attention to some of the really great features of this course. You're looking at a beautiful banner that welcomes and grounds the learner in. We're using replace strings in that banner to customize. So just a couple of tips outside of the evaluation realm, but I hope that you take a little bit of inspiration away from some of this as well. So I'm going to show you the rubrics tool. I'm just going to pop myself off of video here. There we go. Have as much bandwidth as we can. All right, so I'm going to show you the rubrics tool. If you don't have the rubrics tool in your navigation bar, which I don't, you can access it through Course Admin. So if you're following along with me, head over to that Course Admin tool. Generally, it'll be set up like this. You'll have groupings for learner management, for example, and then here I have the assessment grouping with all my assessment tools. I'm going to head into the rubrics tool here. So you can see here, this is essentially that kind of repository of rubrics that I was describing to you. So from this page, I'm able to see all of the rubrics that I have created or that are available to me through my organization. So as you're creating more rubrics, you can see in this column, you may want to add some descriptions to make sure that you can tell them apart, for example, if your naming conventions are not obvious. There's a space for that as well. There are two types of rubrics. You can see them here. So we have holistic, for example, and we have analytic. Those are the two types of rubrics. I'll show you one of those in a moment, but you have two options here. Then you can also see the status of whether they are published, drafted, or archived, and that's in this column here. I'm going to bring your attention back this way. You may see that there is a lock symbol beside some of these rubrics, and that means that these rubrics cannot be changed, edited, or deleted. The reason why that pops up is because they've already been used to evaluate and grade a learner. So that's what that icon there is for. So at the top here, you can see very, very easy and simple to create a new rubric. If I click on that, I'm going to show you this in a different context today, though, something that might be a little bit more fun. So we're going to head into the content space here. So you can see here is our junior intermediate science content. I'm going to go into the biology unit and drop down into this cells folder. I'm going to go into, I love this, take a selfie. I think that's so fun. What I'm going to do is actually incorporate a rubric directly into this discussion. So this is an activity, a discussion that has been created by the educator, and I want to add something to be able to assess them against, and I'm going to choose a rubric for today. So what I've done is I've gone into the edit screen of this discussion area. I've gone in then to the evaluation and feedback section. You can see here that there's a title rubrics. Here, I'm going to add a rubric. And in this case, I'm going to create a new one. But as you can see, I have the ability to pull in a rubric that already exists in that repository. This is how you would do that. So now I'm going to click Create New. And on my screen, you should see the pop-up interface that allows me to get into the creation of this rubric. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just call this selfie. I'm just going to call this test for the purposes of this session. So I first have the option to decide which kind of rubric I want to use. For time today, I'm going to use a simple rubric. The holistic rubric works really well when you're focused on the product of an assignment rather than the process, as you'd only be evaluating them on one criteria. I'm going to swap over to that to give you a look. So here's a very simple holistic rubric. This type gives you only one row to use. Okay, so that's our holistic rubric. I'm going to swap back for the purposes of explaining this to you, pardon me. Analytic rubrics, as you're looking at here, provide you with the ability to really break down the assignment into multiple criteria. So I have the ability to add criteria as long as many pieces of criteria as I'd like. And this type gives the students more specific feedback as they understand kind of where in the activity they did well or where potentially they need more learning and more time and more effort. So for the sake of time, again, we're going to go into the holistic rubric, and I'm going to do something very, very simple just to show you how easy it can be to get your hands kind of dirty in this rubric space. I'm going to make this so simple. What I'm going to do is actually make this 3 levels. I'm going to just hit this trash can and it's going to automatically delete that one for me. Great, even simpler. I'm going to include an image file. I'm going to pretend that this is for young learners, for example. So I've gone into my plus icon and I'm going to pull in an image from my computer. So this is just like you'd upload in any other area of Brightspace. And you can see here that I have a couple of pre-populated images. So for level 3, which is going to be kind of my highest level, I'm going to put in that green smiley face. I'm going to add that. Now, Brightspace always asks you to provide alternative texts for images that you pop into your environment. It's really important to us to focus on this. So it will always give you the option for either to put in alternative text or to mark it as a decorative image. So in this case, I want a screen reader to be able to pick up on that image and tell my learners that are using those readers what it is. So I'm just going to go in here. You can kind of see where I'm going here. I'm going to pop yellow smile in here. And then I'm going to go in here. And of course, you may not wish to use a red frowny face, but for the purposes of today, that's what I'm going to pop in just to show you again how easy it is to come in here and create something. Red frown. And there we have it. Okay, I can leave it just like this. I can edit these titles. I can call this, developing or extending, for example, if you have proficiency language you'd like to pop in here. I can score this if I like using a percentage. I can reverse the level so that 3 pops in over here. I can do all sorts of things. I also have the options menu down here, visibility options, whether or not I want the students to see the scores or if I want those to only be visible for me. This is where I would add that description that is only visible to me so that in my repository, I can make sense of where I've created this and what it is. And then I would just simply hit attach this rubric. And here's my rubric. Again, a very, very simple example, but just showing you how you can create a rubric kind of in context within an assignment. All right, so that's our rubrics tool. I'm going to cancel that and leave that as it is. And the next thing I'm going to show you is we're going to pop into actually my primary course. Okay, I'm going to pop into a different environment here and I'm going to go in and show you the annotations tool. I'm going to show you how you can get there through your content space. You're probably thinking, oh, my work. I'm not familiar with the My Work tool. Just a reminder, you have language management settings in Brightspace. Your administrators have the opportunity to change language in your site to suit your group. So for these younger learners, the term content may not make sense, but my work sure does. So that's what we've done in this primary course to make it make sense for that particular group of learners. So back onto the annotations tool. I'm going to go down into my art activity. I've asked them to create a shoebox farm. Okay. I said, show me your shoebox farm that you've made. Take a photo and upload it here. Here is my activity directly in my content space, and I can scroll down and see the completion summary. Haha, I've got Claire Michaels. She has submitted her assignment. I'm going to go straight to her evaluation from this space. Here's the PDF that she's given. And as it loads here, I'm going to take a look. Oh yeah, that's awesome. So here we have a PDF. She's incorporated her image and she's given me a little bit of text. Now I'm going to show you those annotation tools and how they can support evaluation in context, okay? Using the learner's physical submission to provide them with good feedback in that space. So starting on the left-hand side here, you have a couple of options. You can edit the page, the look and feel of the page. If it's a multi-page document, you can view it in different ways, for example. Then we have the ability to move. If I had a lot of pages or lots going on, I can grab it and move it. I can zoom out, I can zoom in, I can do all sorts of things. Another page fit option. The fun part kind of starts over here. I have the ability to select drawing tools. I can go in and do whatever I like right on top of the learner assignment. You'll see here that I have an opacity meter. So I have the ability to change that. If I want it to, I want you to be able to see the text underneath, for example, but I want to use this pen. I have the ability to make this a really big, thick pen if I like. And then I have some options, some really interesting options, probably more useful for older learners to be able to, multiply things, hard light, color burn, difference, all sorts of cool things to play with. So not only do I have a drawing tool, I also have essentially the same thing in a free-form highlighter, tons of different colors to choose from, my opacity meter, again, my point for the tip of that pen. I also have a text highlighter. If you have text in a document and you want to make a note about something, I have the ability to go in here and actually highlight text that I want to call attention to. Again, assessment in context. We have an eraser, of course, definitely need one of those every now and again, so you're able to erase anything you don't want. What I love is these are sticky notes. So what you can do to help reduce cognitive overload when a learner is receiving an evaluation back from you, what we don't want is for them to log in, open up that assignment and go, whoa, that is way too much stuff. I'm going to go in and add a note. So I'm going to say here, really well done, Clara. And now, using this sticky note, instead of it automatically popping up and having all sorts of text and shapes and all sorts of things, what's going to happen is she's going to see that icon. All she has to do is hover over and she's going to see my note. So again, reducing cognitive load. I have all sorts of shapes of sticky notes that I can use. There's arrows if I want to point to a specific spot. Really great tools to be able to use for contextual evaluation. I have the ability to type. Hello. Here, I can highlight it with color. Again, I can have the opacity meter. I can change the font. I can have it center aligned. I can do all sorts of cool stuff. I have arrows. I have lines I can add. There's all sorts of really cool things that you can do to overlay your evaluation and assessment on a piece of learner activity. We'll move along to the side. I can undo everything that I just did. As you can see, it's slowly erasing everything I've done. I can redo it if I made a mistake. I can print the assignment from here. I can search the document, like Control Find, for example. I can search for specific words in a multi-page document if I want. I also have the ability to download the original file. Even if I've marked it up like crazy, I've done a ton of annotations, I have the ability to go back and download the original document, or I can download the version with the annotations. Okay, like I said, we have tons to fit in here. So that is a very brief kind of 30,000 feet overview of the annotations tool. We're going to hop into grades. I'm going to go back over to my junior intermediate science course here. In my navigation bar, I'm going to select grades. So let me pop over there. Okay, so when we get to the grades tool, our default view will be enter grades. You can see that here in the top tabs. Unless it's your very first time going into the tool, then it will bring you to the setup wizard, which is something that, again, you can also navigate to the setup wizard at any point in time to set up your gradebook. It'll walk you through a series of steps to do so. So here we have all of our students along the left-hand side, and some of you, again, will be very familiar with this. So we can see how they're all doing in the class in one nice view. So this first column has the final calculated grade, which is being calculated based on the assessments that the learners have already been evaluated on. That is the efficiency of the automation that goes on behind the scenes with all of the assessment tools in Brightspace working to culminate in the gradebook. If you scroll kind of all the way to the end here, depending on how many assignments and categories you have, on the other side here, you can see the final adjusted grade. This is where you can make adjustments based on your professional judgment. You might think, okay, well, I like what the gradebook is doing by pulling in all of the assignments that I've assigned in Brightspace, but what if I've looked at something in person with that learner and I want to make some changes? You can do that here. So, from our gradebook, we also get an indication of ungraded submissions. That is shown to us by this orange dot right here. So what we can do is actually click on those orange dots and it takes us right to that assignment evaluation page, straight from the gradebook, which is really helpful and really useful. So here I also want to show you another view. So I want to show you an alternative view. We can actually switch to spreadsheet view, which allows you to input the scores right here within a cell of the gradebook. This can really mimic the structure of Excel or Google Docs, Google Sheets. If those are tools that you're kind of familiar with using as third-party gradebooks, this might be a nice way for you to start. This can be really useful if you need to do, batch grading or updating of scores after a subsequently invigilated activity in the classroom, for example. So with this view, you can adjust multiple grades. You don't need to click into each individual student or grade item to make those changes. So that's the spreadsheet view. I'm going to switch back to the standard view here. So as I scroll along the page, I'll just scroll down here, make it as clear as I can. So as I scroll along the page, I can see the categories that have been created. So you can see bio category encapsulates a number of grade items, which are these in this column here. If I scroll further, you can see there's another category for chemistry and another category for earth science, for example. It's a really great way of organizing your grade books. So these categories and items can be edited and created in the Manage Grades area. So you can see here, if I click on this new chevron, I can create a new grade item. I can create a new category. I can go in here and edit anything that already exists, for example. That is what you can do in the Manage Grades area. So let's go back here. Now, again, a very brief overview of what the traditional gradebook view in Brightspace looks like. I'm going to stop my screen share for a second and just pop right back over to my slide deck, and we're going to talk a little bit about the mastery view of the gradebook. This is one of my favorite things about Brightspace. I think mastery view of the gradebook is so fantastic. So mastery view. So mastery view assists us in getting a little bit of a finer point on some of those competency-based assessments that we might want to be doing in Brightspace. So we capture student learning over time. We focus on competency and growth using the mastery view of the gradebook, less so on numerical values and summative assessment, really on that learning path. So the mastery view allows instructors to easily view and understand the overall level of achievement by their learners that's related to a specific outcome, competency, or standard that's being taught in your course. So it provides a really quick and excellently robust snapshot of learner achievement. It's based on evidence-based data points, and you can share these with students and to inform your own practice. Importantly, setting up the outcomes tool is crucial for the use of mastery view. We won't go into this setup today, but we do have a lot of documentation if this is something you need to do in your environment. I highly recommend you head into the Brightspace community and search for the word outcomes. That will give you an understanding of how to incorporate achievement scales and course level outcomes into your course so that you can start to use those with the mastery view of the gradebook. So administrators will go in and define achievement scales, and then the course level outcomes allow you to pull in preloaded outcomes for your state or your province, for example. Those already generally exist in Brightspace for most places across the globe. So you'll be able to pull those into your course and start aligning an outcome or a competency, whatever you'd like to call it, with an accessible activity in Brightspace. And then you'll be able to use the mastery view of the gradebook to assess against it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over. Everything you see on the screen here will be included in the follow-up deck that you'll get. So let's just take a look at that in the space. So I'll just pop into my demo environment, come back here, keeping an eye on the time. We're going to do great. All right. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me in this quick overview today. Really appreciate your attention. So here we are back in the grades view. I am still inside the grades tool, but what I'm going to do is toggle over to view achievements by mastery view. It looks similar, doesn't it? It looks pretty similar to what you're seeing in that traditional gradebook view, but there's a few important differences. So here you'll see on the top row, instead of your grade items and your categories, you're going to see your learning outcomes. Again, you might call these competencies, outcomes. It's totally up to you. As I mentioned before, your administrative team has the ability to design the language of Brightspace and edit the language of these tools to suit you and your learning group. So you can hover over one of these outcomes to actually see your learner's progress. So I can see if my class, oh, pardon me, there we go. I can see, I'm going to go to this one here. This is a good view. So I can see here the outcome of current scientific knowledge and understanding guides scientific investigations, etc. How is my class doing? Well, I haven't assessed anyone in this area yet. So let's take a look. If I have another one where I have, for example, I have the ability to take a look at my screen. Pardon me, I'm on a smaller screen. So I would scroll down and I'd be able to see my learner's progress there using the color scheme that again is defined in your organization. So one of the most important parts here is the drill down into the learner view so that you can get a picture of how learners are doing against a specific learning objective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this particular one here, and I'm going to go into Samantha Kane. I'm going to take a look at her performance against this particular learning outcome. So you can see that I aligned this learning outcome with an activity that I called the human cell in Brightspace. And what I did was I assessed against that activity, and I assessed based on the language of my achievement scale. I assessed her performance. And what I'm doing now is I'm coming to this space and I'm seeing that in context. Had I also wanted to assess against this particular outcome, here we're looking at this outcome in particular, I can pull this outcome into multiple activities. I could assess against this outcome using an assignment, a discussion, a quiz. As you align this outcome with other activities, you'll see a list of evidence populate here. Over time, you can see the beginning of the monthly count here. I will be able to assess over time, understand where this learner is in their journey to mastery of this particular outcome or standard or competency. I can also see that perhaps they did a much better job at being able to communicate their mastery of this competency on a discussion versus a quiz. That's where this space might help support my teaching practice. So that is a very, very brief overview of Mastery View. If you want to go deeper into any of the tools that you saw, what I would recommend that you do, again, is head into that Brightspace community. We have video that goes and dives deeply into tools like Mastery View, where you can take your understanding to a much deeper level. So what I'm going to do is just head back over to our slide deck, bring you back over there with me. And I'll finish up the presentation bit of this. Again, really appreciate your time. Lots to discuss today. So our review, we did a lot in a very short period of time. We created and included a rubric in an accessible activity. We looked at the assignment annotations tool to encourage evaluation in context. We set up and we managed grade categories and grade items. We showed you how to access those tools, and then interpret student progress with a very quick overview of Mastery View. Again, if any of these things that I've shared today intrigue you, we have lots and lots of documentation and video where you can dive deeper into a few of these things, and I do hope that you do. So, Christina has actually already popped this link into the chat, our K-12 educators community group. This is a space for K-12 educators to head in, join us. We post, we chat, we respond, folks chat to each other. It's a really great spot. There's a QR code on the screen. If you'd like to take a snapshot of that now, you're very welcome to. If you haven't, we also will give you this slide deck so you can take a picture of that later on as well. Our D2L Champions program is something that's really important to us. It's a fabulous program to help you get involved, especially if you're attending webinars like this, you're interested in participating in, customer feedback groups or giving us reviews. We also like to reward you as a champion by giving you champions points. that you can then use to kind of redeem for cool stuff like swag, gift cards, or even D2L services. So if you're looking for more information, I believe the link will get popped in the chat there. We also have the link that will be clickable when you receive this presentation. Okay, and then obviously a plug for our next Bright Ideas webinars that are coming up. So we have a couple of great sessions aligned with checkpoints in your year. Year-end activities in Brightspace is coming up June 11th. In July, we'll start showing you some cool stuff that you can do with summer school in Brightspace. And then we'll talk in August about rollover best practices, how to make sure that your courses are ready for your next group. Now, what I'd love for you to do